Come here, let me ask you guys something. Why couldn't the Frieza Force create Super Saiyan Blue level androids like Dr. Hedo did on planet Earth? That is the question that's running through the entire Dragon Ball community right now, because Gamma 1 and Gamma 2 are at the same level of strength as Goku and Vegeta, at least as Goku and Vegeta are known to Piccolo. At this very moment, how he's studied them, how he's known them. He's known them as their max being Super Saiyan Blue, not including Ultra Instinct. Now, if you want to make some sort of argument that he meant Ultra Instinct, well then, it's a far bigger leap as to how Dr. Hedo is able to pull this off, and say someone like the Emperor of Universe 7 has not been able to. That is the question that we're going to answer today, because we do have the answer, and it is honestly not as complicated as you may think it is. So before I jump into that, huge shout out to the entire Black Squad. You guys have shown all my videos lately so much love. I've been gaining hundreds of subscribers lately, and our team, our army, our Black Squad is growing at an exponential rate. We are going to be getting to that 500k mortal plan sooner rather than later. Let's go ahead and jump in. In Dragon Ball Super Manga Chapter 88, Goten and Trunks face off against Dr. Hedo's zombie army. Dr. Hedo was only recreating and reanimating humans because he wanted to have a workforce to make money. That was basically it, to fund his research. He created the zombie army to be able to help with that, but when Goten and Trunks started infiltrating his facility, they came across the army and fought them, and just like you would imagine, this was an easy W for Goten and Trunks, especially heroes or Saiyans of their caliber. These zombies were dumb, dim-witted, and weak because they're literally just pieces of humans put together. But just in this chapter alone, which is a prequel art, and I believe a prequel art only really to do two things. Number one, give us more story for Goten and Trunks. I think that's like the reason we got this arc. But also number two, explain how Dr. Hedo created the Gammas, because once you read these chapters, you'll get a sense as to why it was possible for Dr. Hedo to do this in the first place. And honestly, you don't have to dig much further after that to figure out why the Frieza Force hasn't done it already. So back to this army of zombies, you could say this is how the beginning of android creation starts. You could honestly make a solid conclusion that what we see here is probably what we didn't see Dr. Gero do on his own. Because we know that Dr. Gero created Android 17 and 18 by stealing two children, or kidnapping these two children and creating androids out of them, chopping them up and creating androids, because Android 18 has a lot of machine inside of her. While Dr. Gero and Android 19, they both chopped off most of their body parts to create themselves into androids. So human manipulation, and honestly as gruesome as what Dr. Hedo does here, is probably the beginning phase of creating androids. And you have somebody here that is in a family that has done this. We know for a fact Dr. Gero and Dr. Hedo, they're both in the same family, and they both seem to have the same fascination as to become necromancers, basically, to recreate humans in an image that they prefer, recreate beings that they want to make. But the difference being that Dr. Gero did this because he was working for the Red Ribbon Army to create kind of like a super soldier, while at the same time Dr. Hedo, he was only doing it because, or initially doing it because he wanted to get money and basically make a slave workforce, which is also pretty evil, to be honest with you. Basically just slaves. So after Goten and Trunks, or the superheroes Saiyaman X1 and X2, after they defeated all of Hedo's goons, Hedo wanted to get back what they stole, which was a disc that had the programming and all the details of how to create Cell. So What does he do? This is where it gets really interesting. Meet Beta, or Beta 1 to be exact. This is not like anything else that Dr. Hedo has created, and I would say this is the first android that he has created. And I would honestly say that this android is an android that is very much similar to Android 17 and 18. Now, we don't know who this guy is, who Dr. Hedo stole, or if he is just recreated as a machine wholly, but we do know that he is basically an android. He is the beta series of the androids that Dr. Hedo has created. And not only is he fast and strong, he also has recording devices built into his eyes. He has a lot more mechanical parts into him than any of the zombies actually had. And he actually is very strong and fast compared to Goten and Trunks. He actually catches Goten off guard, and Goten in his base, and remember, this isn't any old character, Goten actually is a very strong warrior, and he's still imbued with the genes of the Saiyan. He can go into Super Saiyan, so he is very, very powerful comparatively. So the fact that this guy can catch him off guard, going from this to this, is a huge leap. But each of these chapters show us the rise of Dr. Hedo and his robotics, and how he is building these creatures because he needs them to fulfill purposes. And the reason that he built Beta was because he had to face Beta against what he called super villains who attacked him. So he needed somebody that was strong and can face off against somebody that had powers, because he knew that Goten and Trunks had superpowers, because that's why Beta was at the school, to find out who had powers in that school and eliminate them. And honestly, so far we are going down the same route that Dr. Gero did back in Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z. Android 8 is very, very similar to the zombie androids that Dr. Hedo created. The next android that Dr. Gero makes are 18 and 17, and they're very similar to Beta. So what's next? Meet probably my favorite thing out of this prequel arc, and this is like a zombie android dinosaur that Dr. Hedo created specifically only for strength. He purposely made him as strong as possible, and he, as you guys can see, is part zombie and part android, part machine. He's got a lot of different things from the last two iterations, but at the same time, he is a monster. And that is exactly what not only Dr. Gero makes after 17 and 18, he makes Cell, but Dr. Hedo eventually makes, after he makes the Gammas, he makes Cell Max, which this dinosaur is a perfect mirror to the Cell Max situation, where even Dr. Hedo says that he should have put more brains into his head. So it shows right here that Dr. Hedo had no problem having a stupid monster be that powerful. And you can see exactly how powerful this dinosaur actually is, because he is landing blows and hits on not only Goten and Trunks, but also blocking hits from Krillin, which I don't really need to be telling you how strong Krillin actually is. And Goten and Trunks really only are able to defeat this guy with the help of Krillin and Destructo Disc by going into Super Saiyan and knocking him out. And by knocking him out, I mean just completely ripping him apart. So honestly, this dinosaur, I would gauge him as a little bit under Super Saiyan in levels of strength, meaning that Dr. Hedo, in just the span of what I could only assume has been a week or so, has literally gone from Android 8 to, I would say, comfortably imperfect Cell, like the level of strength gap between all these creatures that he's created. So Dr. Hedo is creating all these things because not only is he part of this family, but because of the story and the prequel arc. That's just what he does, and he creates stronger and stronger androids to face off against Goten and Trunks. By the time we get to the Cell Max arc, it's clear why the Gammas are so strong, because of this scene right here. This is Dr. Hedo after he has the Red Ribbon Army, the new Red Ribbon Army, at his disposal. And that means that he's got all the funding that he could ever need. He's got all the money he could ever need, so he can make whatever he wants. That's how genius he is. And his focus is making these androids. And at the exact same time, he also has all this information that the Red Ribbon Army has on all the Z fighters. So of course he's gonna know how strong they are, and it's quite possible that he had a lot of his spy drones take DNA again from these creatures to kind of pit against the Gammas, so that way the Gammas could be that level of strength. Like, Dr. Hedo is just so in love with the Gammas here, because not only do they dress like in the movie it's his favorite superhero, and in the manga it's the two heroes that he idolized, that he tried to defeat, which is Saiya X1 and Saiya X2, but at the same time he loves them because he believes them to be the strongest. And with them taking care of Piccolo the way they did, and how powerful Piccolo believes they are, then these two are the strongest on planet Earth when it comes to androids right now. So that begs the question, why doesn't the Frieza Force create androids? And honestly, this story that I just told you for Dr. Hedo explains why the Frieza Force has not created any androids. And it is because they are no use to Frieza at all. So I believe 100% that the Frieza Force's technology could easily create androids. Even Dragon Ball Heroes flirts with the idea of Meta Cooler and Meta Frieza and all these different things. So I do believe that the Frieza Force has the technology. I mean, they had the technology to bring back Frieza from the dead artificially with the technology they had back in Dragon Ball Z to create Meta Frieza, who was either the same level of strength or as strong as he was before, which is a huge feat in and of itself because he's a planet buster. And then when Frieza comes back, they regenerate him just from his eyeball essentially. And that is just a huge level of scientific power that I believe if Dr. Hedo had access to this, he would create even stronger androids. So I do believe that the Frieza Force has the capabilities to make the androids. That's 100%. But why haven't they? They haven't because, again, they have no need for them. Frieza is the strongest. Frieza is so strong that he wanted immortality just to be the strongest forever for the entire existence of the Frieza Force and the entire existence of Universe 7. He just wanted to be at the top until Goku beat him, and more Saiyans beat him after that. And once he died, the Frieza Force went into shambles. They lost planets. This is told many different times throughout the story, throughout the manga, by Frieza, through the movies, by the Heaters in the Granola arc. Like, it's told to us that basically the Frieza Force was on its last legs. They'd revive Frieza for Resurrection of F, and then Frieza gets destroyed again. And so within that time period, the Frieza Force is busy between both those deaths in just trying to hold on to what they can. By the time that Frieza comes back, he is focused on two things: regaining his empire, which he is basically doing. You can see he's actively going around and focusing on rebuilding his empire, but at the same time, he also is training. He's focusing heavily on training to the point where he gets to Black Frieza level. So he is focused primarily on the Frieza Force Empire and being #1 again. He has no use and no funding to put into anybody creating artificial machines that basically are going to be stronger, or as strong as Goku and Vegeta, or as strong as him one day. The need for Frieza to do that is not there because he wants to be #1. And it's not like he doesn't know about androids, because he had full conversations with Android 17 during the Tournament of Power, even calling him Machine. So Frieza definitely knows about androids and understands about androids, but he just doesn't want to make them. That's basically it. There's no need for them. Besides planets rebelling, there is no opposing army or military or empire that's trying to encroach on him, where he would need something like super soldiers to be able to face off against all of them. He is enough on his own. So there is no room for growth in the Frieza Force for somebody like Dr. Hedo or Dr. Gero to come in and start creating things on his own. While on Earth, there was two organizations and a family lineage that focused primarily on something like that, which is to create extremely powerful entities. So hopefully you guys enjoyed that explanation. Let me know what your explanation was. This is going to be Blackscape signing off. Take care, guys.
Subscribe for more content. Perish.